Morning. We'll give it another few minutes for some more people to join.
Morning.
Okay. We seem to be stabilizing at about 7 people. Oh, getting a few more. Okay, so this is day 2 of the StarlingX PTG. If you were with us yesterday, our kind of typical agenda for our PTGs where we really go through all of the kind of sub projects within StarlingX. There's about a dozen of them, and just got an update on what they've done in the previous StarlingX release and what their plans are for the new one. So it was a good technical review. Majority of PLs and TLs that presented had slides. They are available on this Google folder. For those that just chatted, we tried to put down some notes on what they were chatting about. So for today, we don't have a big agenda right now. I don't know if anybody thought of any new items. Two things that came up yesterday on the review that we should spend some time discussing is one was how to develop more core reviewers, and the other one was around, issues around PL and TL input into release planning. I added one, lighthearted one, to see if Ildiko could explain why we chose epoxy as the OpenStack release name for the e-release. Anybody else have um, any other agenda items they'd like to discuss today? Okay, well, let's start with these and then we'll do a check after we finish going through these topics. We'll do another check just to see if there's any other topics that maybe come out.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Maybe the first one, and again, just a lighthearted one, is I know Thalis and I have been kind of working on, what the plan is for the different OpenStack releases, and it seemed like the second time around the OpenStack release namings, it was animals like antelope, bobcat, carpel, Dalmatian. Ildiko, how did we get to epoxy?
So I think when it comes to the first round of going through the alphabet, I think we had cities around the globe where we had the summit or something, and then people were suggesting things like a street name or something that the city was famous for, something that started with the letter of the alphabet that was coming next. Um,
Okay. Related to where the summit was or something.
if I remember correctly, that was the first iteration. So I remember I was in Hong Kong for the Ice House Summit, and there's an Ice House Street in Hong Kong.
Okay, okay.
For the second round of going through the alphabet, I think we might have opened it up to be, because we don't have 2 summits per year anymore. So that doesn't really match anymore. But at least for a good chunk of the alphabet the first time around was definitely around the cities. And then once the summit has changed, then that influenced the release naming as well. So I think we opened up the concept to be a little bit broader. And then
Yeah.
how this usually works is people are suggesting names from the community ecosystem, free for all almost, I think. Not all, but people who are active in the community and ecosystem will know that this is happening. And from the suggestions, the Open Infra Foundation does a first scan, and then realistic names go through trademark checks, and then people vote on them. So we are obviously wanting to choose a name that will not run into any legal issues once it's official, and we want to actually use that as a release name. So there's a whole process around like settling on a final name, and epoxy was the winner this time.
But the one thing I wasn't able to find was what's the reasoning behind why epoxy was even suggested? Like, is it related to something or just
I
completely
I'm not
random?
I I'm not 100% sure, so I will not say it for certain because I haven't been following the process. Oh, I think I missed to mention, I think we usually have a community vote too in terms of which ones people like the
Yeah,
most.
I saw the community vote and I saw the different two or three options that people were voting on, but they didn't give a nice, okay, explanation of why they were suggesting the names. And so,
I'm not 100% sure. I'll look into it, but I'm not sure if we have a concept like the previous round where it was very specific.
where there's some
terms of
reasoning
like
to.
the city or some like relevance to a city or something like that.
Okay.
I don't think so, but I do not know. I
Okay.
mean, from the previous round, the fact that we know that we didn't get Jekyll nor Hyde, I'm still disappointed. So maybe this round we can finally.
I was thinking, just since all the, in the second round, all the release names were animals. I was thinking epoxy was some sort of nickname for an animal or something, but I couldn't find anything. But anyways,
I think that was a coincidence, but
oh
I don't remember now what other options we had for those. Um, I mean,
yeah.
it's always a fun process, one way or the other. So, I mean, the process works just thinking about, like we are talking about why the name is what it is. So,
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
naming process still serves the purpose that it just grabs attention, but yeah, I think that the animal names just ended up probably being a coincidence that people liked those
Oh,
the
really?
most
Okay.
because I think there were non-animal names suggested too,
Okay.
if I remember correctly, but I need to look it up. I'll check it with people.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll give you
but
the action. We'll give you the action to look that up.
there
Okay.
were definitely animal names on that pool. YouTube. I don't
Oh,
remember which ones, but there were.
oh, really? The
Yeah,
other options for for the
yeah.
e-release? Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay, so let's get to more serious topics. Um, so we wanted to chat about core reviewers, and I don't know if this is really the issue or not, just about how do we develop more core reviewers, and is that really the issue that we don't have a lot? Because I was poking around just to start kind of discussion. I was kind of poking around the core reviewers for some of the repos. Now this is a really big repo. Config and even metal is are big repos, but there's a lot of core reviewers. Now is and when you get, I didn't look at all of them, but when you get, well, distributed cloud has a fair amount. When you get into some of the other ones, there's a smaller set, but OpenStack's got a decent amount. I wonder if is it really that we don't have enough core reviewers, or is it that not everybody on the core reviewer list is doing enough reviews? Like I know guys like John Kung do an insane amount of reviews, and same with Bob Church. I think probably between Bob Church and John Kung, they do half the reviews or something. But is that the issue more than just trying to find core reviewers? Any thoughts?
Do we know if those lists they are up to date? Like they are, everyone are still contributing to the project and are still active here? I mean, the majority of the ones you showed, I think they are, right?
I think there is times where there's stale people on this, and I have gone in like this one. Jessica isn't contributing anymore. She should be taken off this. Um, so so yeah, every now and then I get asked to remove stale entries from the different core groups. Um, and then every now and then there's um there's there's new ones added, or there's proposals for new ones added on the StarlingX Discuss. So I think these are, I mean, and this is the list that's used by Garrett to allow which reviewers can do plus twos and merge rather than just plus ones.
I remember Bruce bringing up the topic originally, I think what was it, a half year ago maybe? Let me see if I can figure it out.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember Bruce recently, like a few months ago, brought up the issue that some repos, and it may not be the ones that I'm showing, some repos did not have a lot of core reviewers, and it was difficult, or it was difficult to get two core reviewers to review his Git reviews, and therefore they were sitting unmerged for a long period of time and holding up some of their development.
Yeah, I think it was around end of July, August, beginning of August timeframe when this came up. And I remember, I think I added a short adjustment to the contributor guide recommendations saying that if there aren't enough core reviewers, then there an exception of having 2+2s on a patch can be made just to ensure some throughput and make sure that there isn't a big bottleneck in the project that cannot be overcome. So it's there must be project teams where this is an issue. And if there's a big team, but only like 2 people are active, it is also concerning in the sense that there are 2 very active people. They can burn out, which is a problem often in open source communities. And the other aspect is, what if they, for whatever reason, decide to go someplace else and do someplace else and don't want to be a core reviewer here anymore? And then you lose a lot of the team's bandwidth. And if you don't have a steady incoming set of new core reviewers who will take on that duty, then you're left with a paralyzed project team, which is an issue. And I
Yeah,
think that's
I,
what Bruce was bringing up, that there isn't the incoming stream of cores, at least in the areas that he was monitoring or active in.
right. And so do we think, like, I don't really have a lot of visibility to kind of the reviews of the code. Um, so like, is the issue that in some repos that we don't have enough core reviewers, or we don't have enough of the core reviewers reviewing? Like guys like Jim or Michelle or Gata, do you guys have any comment on the core reviewing issues?
So definitely things could be moving a bit faster. I know at least for Flock. We increased the number of cores over the past couple of months as we had more people, who we felt the current cores felt were up to speed enough that they could provide good guidance. But still, we need to continue to build some of that subject matter expertise. So the problem, at least in Flock services, is better, but could definitely improve. I'd like to see some things caught, and a couple of things move along a little faster.
And I think from my point of view, again, I think we've done better on this problem. For me at least, in my teams, the issue, or some of the challenge was that in some of the repos where there are components that belong to like different functional domains, like the config. At the beginning, it was just a few people from platform services and Flock that would do all the code reviews for all the teams, whether the change was networking or related to security or related to application framework for the containers. So we've remedied this by now. If you go back to that list, you'll see you have, for example, the networking TL, Steve Webster is on there. You'll see Andy from the security team is on there as a core reviewer, and Jerry, and Jim Gold. So I think one of the solutions we implemented is to make sure that the repos that span multiple functional domains have at least one core reviewer from that domain, because they honestly would be the people that are familiar with with the code and with what a fix is trying to do. So that's, I personally believe some of these issues have been remedied in the last few months. It's too bad, you know, Bruce is not here to comment on that as well. Can things move a little faster? Yes, I kind of agree with Jim on that one. And the other thing is that there has to be an education for the developer themselves, the person posting the code, to kind of have a bit of an understanding of, you know, is there and I know this is a controversial issue, but that's, I think, when you see a list that big, you kind of need you kind of need to figure out, okay, like, you know, I'm making a networking issue, so it doesn't make sense for me to add whatever Chris Friesen because he is not familiar with the networking code. I don't know if that makes sense. And to be honest, I know that that's not really preferred, but it's the reality for some of these big repos.
I like that concept personally. I think that I heard other project teams in other projects doing similar things, because you can't have a small group of people know all technology areas. So that the fact that you found a way to cover big repos and big areas like config by having people who are subject matter experts on a particular subdomain, I think that is great. However, I think that we still probably need to put a bit more emphasis on the educational part, just because it can be misleading when someone looks at the big number of people and then it turns out that there's a good chunk there who's only reviewing a subset of things when it is touching their area of expertise, but they will not be the people who review every patch and like feeling the responsibility to make sure they get landed in a reasonable amount of time and get attention as much as they should be. So in that sense, I think it is still good to discuss like how to sort of mentor and help the new generation of core reviewers to make sure that every core group has a good chunk of active reviewers who are ensuring that the bandwidth is good and the reviews get attention and all those things.
Yep, agree.
Yeah, we have these challenges in docs all the time. You know, we have core reviewers who, you know, don't review for months on end sometimes. So how do we handle it on the doc side?
No, Anita, the core reviewers on the code on the doc side are basically just doc team members. I think maybe the challenge you're having is that subject matter experts are not reviewing. I mean,
Yeah, that's
who are the
correct.
core reviewers? Is you and Greg and Ron Stone. I mean, it's not, I don't think that's the same issue. I think maybe your issue is that you're not getting people to +1 the content so that the core reviewers can then merge it. But
Yeah,
that's a different issue. That's not the issue we're talking about here. I don't, at least from my
Okay.
point of view.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an issue, but it's a different issue. With docs, it's kind of weird that the people you really need to look are not necessarily the core reviewers, but the core reviewers need to you know, ultimately approve what's going in. But yeah,
Yeah, like in
like
a sense, the core reviewers need to make sure that the subject matter experts gave their +1s before they
Correct.
merge the code.
yeah.
And
Correct.
if the problem is that those you don't, well, I mean, I don't know what the problem is. Either you don't know who should review the content, that could be one problem. I don't know if that's it, or you know who it is and then they're not reviewing for whatever reason. That's a different problem as well. So which one of it? I mean, if we want
Yeah.
to discuss that I think should be a sub bullet discussion by itself. And
Correct.
then we can explore which one of these two is is the actual problem.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct, Gada. It's the latter one that we don't get, reviewers, subject matter experts who actually give a +1, right? So that's where we are lagging. And of course, core reviewers, as you said, technically we cannot, merge the release without, the technical subject matter experts reviewing it. So that's where we are getting blocked for months on end without getting closure. Because core reviewers, we can just do it from an editorial perspective, but not from a, technical perspective.
Yeah, I understand. That's kind of what I'm saying as well. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know why do you think you're not getting, if you put the right people on the review, why do you think you're not getting them to look at it? Like, is it an education thing? What do you think
I
the
don't
issue
know.
is?
Now, one thing that has helped a little in the last 6 months to a year with the subject matter experts reviewing the doc stuff is that we really don't from a process point of view, allow storyboards to kind of close unless the doc reviews are done. So there's a bit of a the doc core reviewers can hold can hold the subject matter experts hostage with respect to you can't close the storyboard until your doc reviews are merged. So I think that's helping basically.
Absolutely. And that's very true, Greg. Yeah, so we do put our story a task in our reviews, and it doesn't close till we get it all merged. But the getting them to review it is the challenge what we face constantly, constantly. And this is not just I think Greg is the only co-reviewer who reviews it, but besides Greg, we don't get the mileage from the others.
Yeah, but again, I think it is improving a little with the strict requirement that doc reviews must be done before storyboards can close. So
Right.
any other issues or potential solutions for some of the code reviewing? Like are there repos that do not have enough core reviewers?
I don't think so. I mean, personally, has not been the experience of
Yeah, because even
my team.
yeah. This one seems weird that it doesn't seem that this one seems weird that it doesn't even seem to have the right people in it.
Yeah, you'd think Chris would be in there.
Chris and Jim Gall, I would have I would have
Yeah.
thought would have been in here. But anyways, I mean maybe I don't know. I mean I don't mind taking a first pass at it, but maybe we should take a quick look at the core reviewers and get rid of stale entries and just make sure that the right people are in, right? Like I said, the containers core guy, the core doesn't even have the TL for containers or the PL. So actually maybe that's
Yeah,
okay.
that's a good action for sure. Yeah.
So we think most repos have enough core reviewers, but possibly not the right people, the right reviewers. Okay, I can take that action as something to go through. Any other?
And for DC, we also go through a lot of training before making people code reviewers. So it is
Okay.
important. I agree with the education aspect of it, and we do that internally to make sure that, we have, people who've been, it's not only competence training, but it's also involvement, right? Make sure that they take the habit and, always be involved in code reviews, and also seeing that the potential code reviewers are core reviewers are involve and provide, valid and good constructive feedback. So it's a training process, and it's also an involvement process that we want to see. Also, regarding the 2 core reviewers per review, we maintain that policy in that repo to make sure we have 2 core reviewers reviewing, even though, it went down to 1. Of course, for simple change, we're okay with 1, but in general, we're kind of maintaining that 2 core reviewers. So it puts a bit of a more strain on the core reviewers because of that. So that may be sort of self-inflicted, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we
And I
just want to
think,
maintain our.
and I think that was the spirit of the change that Ildiko and Bruce did, was that, we still on a normal operational basis, still try to do the 2+2s and to merge. But if there's, extenuating circumstances where, you can only get, there's a review that's holding up other development and you can only get 1 core reviewer, then you're allowed to do the merge. Maybe I'll give myself and you, Michelle, an action just to kind of maybe review kind of what training you have already, like from the Disk Cloud thing, and maybe that's something we can generalize into, something more general for, all the StarlingX projects.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Also, there's some comments in the chat you may want to read.
Yeah, I was just about to bring it up, as it kind of touches on the point of like struggling with how to provide a meaningful review, probably for code base that is bigger and more complicated. And if the patch sizes are large, that might be a challenge for someone who's less familiar with that area when they are trying to review. So some kind of a training-ish material or anything that could help people how to get into reviewing, that would be great. I don't know, James, if there's anything you would like to add to what your comment was in the chat.
Well, also, since I'm not working right now, so I'm not even that connected with this. I'm more here trying to see, to get ideas for when I am back to working. I mean, is there anything even that somebody who's not actively doing tests right now, is there still ways that they can put some effort into this? It's not like I have the whole setup to test against. I mean, is it really just looking at how code is laid out, or what else is there that somebody could contribute on this?
Like, are you looking for design documentation in order to do the reviews? Is that what you're looking for, or?
Even just what areas, I'm just trying to figure out what areas I could put it. Again, I had been working on OpenStack at Red Hat, doing hardware provisioning work, and as I said, it was I was told, like, well, go review some code. It's like, well, I would look at things and say, it's like, well, I'm not really sure what I might not even know necessarily what's going on in a particular part, especially if it was not something that was in my particular area.
Right.
So it was, just not even trying to figure out what to even start putting in.
Right. Yeah, I think I mean there is background information on, Garrett reviews from, like the normal areas, right? Like there's overview material in the storyboards, and for any large features, there's specs that we write. Although yeah, from someone that kind of wants to start learning or contributing into a particular area of or contributing into StarlingX, my suggestion would be that StarlingX is large, and like we've seen, like there's a dozen different projects. It may be the best to like identify which project within StarlingX interests you the most, and then start going to their specific weekly meeting, or a lot of them have bi-weekly meetings, and then see what are the work items within that project, and then and maybe focus on a particular activity within one of those projects, so that the scope is smaller, and like you say, you can can come up to speed at least in that one particular area before expanding out into other areas. I don't know if that helps, but
Yeah, I can look into that, see if there's something at some areas I might at least have some background to. And,
yeah, like certainly if your expertise is in OpenStack, like Thales runs the OpenStack project within StarlingX, and there's certainly opportunities there. There, like Thales was mentioning yesterday, that the activity in that group is increasing a lot. So there's lots of areas to participate there.
okay, I'll look on that after all these meetings.
Sure. Um,
Right, can I add one more point here? Just something that
Yep.
came to my mind. One thing that there's a phenomenon on these StarlingX repositories. If we look on the repos in isolation, like you look only to one repo, you see a big list of core reviewers. But some of the reviewers, they are core reviewers of several repositories. I mean, Bob Church was probably on all the lists that you showed right now. So this overloads the core reviewer, right? And I think this is something that the core reviewers of the repo should take care of, like to make sure that we have a same list of core reviewers that are available, because for example, the OpenStack Armada app, we had there Bob Church and Heitor, but both are more active now on the platform side, reviewing from other repos. So of course they would be available and they have expertise to review code there, but it's kind of overloading for those guys, to have so many repos on their hands. So it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And we talked a bit about this at the beginning of the discussion, is that some reviewers are certainly overloaded, slash we, like StarlingX in general, rely on them way too much. And yeah, if they get hit by a bus or something like that, we're in a lot of trouble. So yeah, I think it's to everybody's benefit to yeah, spread the load a little more evenly. I think yeah, and I don't and maybe the best way to do that is to maybe remove those overloaded people from being core reviewers on some projects. And I imagine what'll happen is it'll slow things down at first, because other core reviewers in those projects that we remove them from will we'll need to start doing more reviews. But I would think that that's going to happen, just because otherwise the reviews are not going to get in.
Yeah, but also it's kind of a core reviewer. Let's say I will take my example here. Like if I'm a core reviewer in a repo and I see that the other cores are overloaded in other repos, so it's my responsibility to start training or preparing new core reviewers to help me on that repository that is being neglected, or because the other cores might be in other context, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of the active core reviewers should be looking to that as well to maintain a sane list.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why don't I? So yeah, I think maybe this review, like maybe give me a week or two to do it, and maybe I'll come back in the community meetings and give a readout of what I see and some and we can talk about suggestions about balancing some of the core reviewers and across the repos. It's also yeah. The other thing that would be good, in some cases it's hard to do, like Gada was kind of mentioning at the beginning, is the mapping of I don't know if it's that important, mapping of repos to projects, and sometimes it's one to many. But it'd be interesting to look at that as well. Any other topics for this one?
We do have the project team repo mapping in the projects.yaml file.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll take a look
So
at that.
if it's not up to date, then that should be up to date. That we're using that to generate the electorate list, for instance, for elections, PLTL elections. So we do
Okay.
have a mapping of project team repo.
Yeah, actually, now you mentioned it, I remember seeing it in there. Yeah. Okay. I think we got some good topics there. Do we want to move on to this second item? Issues with PL and TL input into release planning. I think, well, I'll give you my impression of, I think what's happening for StarlingX 10 was that I think, GATA has the release meetings every other week. And I think it was more noticeable when we were getting, close to the end of StarlingX 10 and close to various milestones where we needed, the different features that were candidates for that release to be in a certain state, with respect to, resources identified or code started or code ended or testing done or testing stuff like that. And probably for various reasons, like people are busy, that we were having trouble getting PLs and TLs to update the status in the release spreadsheet to the point where I think Gada was just doing a lot of nagging on the StarlingX Discuss side. I don't know if that was the key issue, or anybody else want to comment?
That was the key issue. Dates not being kept up to date. And
Yeah.
maybe, and again, we don't need we're not mandating active participation every single meeting, but just at least once every 2 weeks or close to milestones, we need the feature and primes to make sure their dates are accurate, because then we have no idea whether something is done or not. We depend on each sub-project team to manage their own work. So to be honest, I don't know what the barrier is here. And that's why, and again, not to put somebody on the spot, but somebody doesn't become a feature prime in StarlingX accidentally. They know, because they would have proposed these features and they would have had them added, they would have provided the initial date. So I'm honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's general busyness. I don't think it's lack of education, because we sent many reminders. And it's not a new process. It's the process we've been following for 10 releases. So I don't know.
I think there seems to be a challenge with communication in general, and I think that when it comes to these kind of coordination tasks, I would think that this is where the project lead for a project team should be able to at least help out and get the information through. I do remember reaching out to PLs in email more directly when this challenge came up, and I don't think anyone responded. And I think that is an issue. And I don't know if we need to more formally write down in the contributor guide or somewhere else what the responsibilities of the different leadership roles are, and responsibilities of the people who are championing a feature. We we might not have enough information available on what it means when someone takes on a particular role in the project.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Jim or Michelle. I mean, I don't know. Was it really just busyness that was the issue in getting these feature statuses up to date? And
Yeah, so I can speak for Flock at least. I think in my case it was busyness, but the one thing that Gata did put in place where she was providing reminders before the community meeting really helped to keep things more accurate. We did have some dates that needed to be reforecast. And so some of the trickiness and just in trying to get all those reforecast while we were in the middle of delivering features that were slated for StarlingX 10. So I think that's where we ran into some problems, but I do appreciate having that reminder in place, because it did mean that when I start that the day, I'm able to focus however much time it takes. No, never more than a couple of hours to at least make sure that things are up to date, get some questions answered, and then provide updated dates based on that, without having without kicking a can down the road thinking I'm reforecasting week by week, right? So provide a real date. So that was very helpful. But yeah, it was just busyness. But I agree, the time and the effort needs to be spent, right? This is important to make sure that the community is aware, and we're trying to hit milestones, and people, I think, expect us to hit those. So I think for sure it's important to try and keep those up to date.
yeah. Any other proposals on ways to address? I mean, I like both the ideas we have here about, updating some responsibilities to make sure people, any new PLs or TLs or feature primes are aware that this is something they're responsible to do, and then and then uh yeah, I mean, Gata will probably continue doing reminders for prior to bi-weekly meetings, and especially bi-weekly meetings where we're making decisions on achieving release milestones or not. It's important. Any other thoughts on this topic?
This is Michelle. Yeah, same here. I agree with Jim. Yeah, I think it's just getting into the habit, making sure that we update those dates and update status of each of those features. Also wanted to point out is that for DC, we had a few late breaking features that I kind of hesitated to sort of highlight and make sure that the commitment was there for StarlingX 10, CX 10. So maybe that delayed my whole process. So I'll take a hit on that, and we'll do better in the next release. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you say. I think it's just a matter of getting into the habit, because you guys have. It's not like you guys don't have this information. I mean, you guys, managing this for a variety of reasons, just to keep designers on schedule and meet other deadlines. So yeah, I think it's more of a just getting into the habit of doing it, because I don't think it's a lot of extra work for you guys, because yeah, like I say, you guys already have the info. It's just a matter of updating the spreadsheet. Okay. All right. Any other topics that we want to talk about generally with respect to StarlingX? Okay. All right. Well, thanks again for coming out to kind of day 2 of the StarlingX PTG, and I think yesterday's meeting, and then it was valuable on the technical side, and then I think these are some good topics that basically have come up in the last 6 months. So it's good to kind of just chat about some ideas on how to address them. So I think that was a good discussion. I guess last call for any other topics. Okay. We're good then. So I think we'll close off the PTG, and again, thanks everybody for participating, and all the regularly scheduled community meetings will start up again next week.
Thank you all. I really enjoyed the updates and conversations on both days. Thank you everyone for participating, and see you all next week on the regular calls.
All right.
Thank you, Greg, for sharing this.
All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Bye,
Greg.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.